Hi, welcome to On the Go with AEW, the program for American Association of University Women. And I'm your host, Diane Hennessy King. And today we're going to wander into the field of costumes. And you probably remember when you were a kid doing make-believe and you put on that hat, the pirate's hat or the cape, or maybe your sister's soccer jersey, or later in life, maybe that special outfit for your first job interview. Well, those were really all costumes. They were clothes that were trying to express who you were at that particular moment. And we are so lucky today to have as our guest the manager of the Arlington County CostumeLab, Jennifer Beal, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And I think I told you privately that I might not say it, but I do think you have one of the best jobs in the world. It is just, I think what's so amazing is that you work with theater groups to transform characters on the stage through costumes, but you also do so much outreach programs and working with the community. So tell me what CostumeLab is and how did you get there, by the way?
Well, I can tell you how I got here really quick. I moved to the area about 7 years ago. I had moved all over the country, worked for multiple theaters all over the United States. A lot of Shakespeare theaters, the Orlando Shakespeare Theater, Utah Shakespearean Festival, and then I landed here at the Shakespeare Theater in DC. I worked there for about 3.5 years before I was really fortunate to get hired by Arlington County. And I run the CostumeLab, part of Arlington Economic Development, Arlington Cultural Affairs, Arlington Arts. And I've been there, like I said, for 3.5 years. I manage primarily my day-to-day as I manage our costume stock, which has about 23,000 pieces in it, and that's everything you might imagine.
Right, we have some pictures of hats that you have available and boxes of different kinds of hats and shoes and dresses, and so it really literally is head to toe costuming.
Yeah, we have furs, we have armor, we have everything you could possibly sort of need. And then we even have specific things like uniforms for certain time periods or certain styles. Yeah, like I said, furs, we have tucks and tails, we have period clothes, we have, pinafores, we have hoop skirts, we have, it's just mind-boggling the amount of stuff we have.
Well, I know just in visiting your lab, just looking at the boxes arrayed, and for the hats, for example, there's the black pilgrim's hats, and there's the nightcaps, and there's all these sort of different things that you realize that the minute you put it on, you are somebody else, and I know that's what you do for the actors as well. And you mentioned the Shakespeare Theater. I know you work with the Arena Stage, the Signature Theater, the Ford's Theater, and all kinds of ones, different theaters. But when you're working with them and they come in to get some kind of a costume sort of thing, how do you direct them to what they might need, or they already have their needs met? And also, just a little bit about the history of the lab.
Sure. So the history is apparently this program has been run for about 40 years, maybe even slightly longer. It's really kind of amazing. Before coming to Arlington County, I never heard of a county-run costume shop. So it was always really delightful. I love telling people in my industry about it, about Arlington's care and support of the arts. We when normally a renter will come in, normally we get sent a designer or a shop manager, depending on the scale of the theater, or sometimes a volunteer. That coming in, usually they know what they need, so they'll know the production they're doing, they'll know the size of the actors, you know, if they need a certain kind of boot or a certain type of uniform. I'm there and primarily to help them find what they need. Myself, I'm not a designer. I'm a costume technician, so I make clothes. That's what I'm good at. I'm a mediocre designer at best. I know what I'm good at. So I'm there to help them. And so another thing I do, part of my job, is I meticulously organize and all the pieces in stock. Like you said, we have down to 1920s cloche hats, floral and straw. So someone can go and know exactly what they need. They can go and find it. And that's what I do, is I make sure things are people can find them the easiest way they need to.
Right. But you also, in addition to working with professional theaters, you can work with school groups that are putting on a play, and just some of the other groups and the grantees that who can use some of your services.
Yes, we have a granted group population, which performing arts organizations can apply to receive support from Arlington County. They can get granted space and services. I'm one of those services, so they receive a deep discount on all their rentals. But we rent, as Arlington County, as the CostumeLab as a whole, rent to performing arts organization, educational facilities, and we have varying discounts depending on the type of organization you are. Businesses, theater and film, we just don't currently rent to private citizens.
Right.
But yeah, definitely education. Students come in and rent from me.
Yeah. But private citizens can get involved in you take donations, and you certainly take volunteers. And so tell us a little bit about what kinds of donations you might look for, and what kind of work that somebody who might want to volunteer.
Sure. For donations, I mean, really, a thing that I often ask people, if they have something they'd like to donate, we're always so grateful. If they can bring things in, it always helps me to see the condition, see the garment, you know, in person, so I can really discern if it's something that's going to be useful. Because I always try to think, it always comes back to who's coming in and who's renting from us, and how we can best serve them. So sometimes, you know, we'll get sort of interesting things that, well, this is really fantastic, or we get a lot of donations of very old vintage clothing, like Victorian vintage clothing is usually too delicate for us to rent out to a theatrical production. And I always really appreciate that, but we have to think of, you know, someone's going to be sweating underneath stage lights and maybe falling down a flight of stairs. You know, I can't rent this beautiful vintage gown to them.
So how about the mannequin that you brought with you? That long dress seems you wouldn't want to be cavorting too much in it.
No, hopefully you wouldn't be. Yeah, that is actually a late 1920s, early 30s period piece with a beautiful matching mink, because you know, it looked like an evening dress. I thought she might get cold. And it's a beautiful piece, and what's fun about it, which you can't really necessarily see on camera, but I can tell that it's been used in a theatrical production because there's a side zipper in it, but someone's put a back zipper in it because maybe there was a quick change, maybe there's something the actor needed a little bit of ease to get in. But it is actually on a period of the dress, and it's actually, it's held up pretty well. It's a beautiful example with the embroidery and everything on it.
Boy, when you do think of quick changes that are required in a whole lot of productions, it's amazing that anything holds up. Obviously, it takes somebody who knows how to repair things and to maintain them as well.
Well, there's a term that's used in costuming, particularly. We say we build costumes because we build something because it's going to go through something completely different than you would an item you wear every day. I'm constructing something because, like I said, it's going to get worn at least 8 times a week. Someone's sweating in it. You have to clean stage makeup off of things. You know, it's a completely different life it's going to lead than like our clothes we wear every day. But yeah, especially quick rigged items, things like that, like have to come off in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, wow. And you have a picture, I think, of some of the jewelry and much of that was donated as well, I think. And just the kinds of things that would be helpful to get donated, and so people can call you or email you?
They can call us at our number, and then they can also email me at costumes@arlingtonva.us. Those are 2 easiest ways to get a hold of me. And yeah, we definitely take accessories, we'll take jewelry. Because at one time, the facility, the CostumeLab did produce. It would actually make and build the shows for the organizations, our granted groups organizations. Since then, some positions have been cut back on, so we do. It's just me now. I run the collection. I do all the programming. So we don't have necessarily the staff to build, but so there are some built pieces that were at one time produced by the CostumeLab in stock, which is really interesting.
And you work with, as I said before, some of the well-known theaters, but there are also smaller theaters that you work with too, and give discounts for renting space as well as the costumes.
Arlington Cultural Affairs, Arlington Arts has rehearsal spaces, studio spaces, theaters that can be, it's part of the grant program, that they can apply to use those facilities. So I always tell people it's kind of like we have the bones of the theater, but we don't have a dedicated like theater group. We serve so many different types of people.
It is just an absolutely amazing resource, and as you said, you hadn't heard of it, and a lot of people haven't heard of it, and it's just, I think, incredible. There's one of the pictures back here of the CostumeLab Arlington Arts is working with a group at is it Senior Center? Sometimes you go out to...
We've done a few different programs with several of the senior centers in Arlington. One of the first programs I brought actually to, I think, every senior center in Arlington now is an interactive lecture that I developed for part of Fairfax Creative Aging Festival in 2015. And as a costumer, you're not always designing for a fashion plate. So I really enjoy talking to people and see how they interact with clothes. So sort of like a tour of the 20th century fashion, but I always encouraged people to share their stories and how they interacted with clothes. And then we also did a felting workshop, which is very, very fun. You make a small sort of little felted piece. We usually do it around the holiday season, so people can learn about wet felting, which is a really fun and really great way to
and
sort
easy
of
and
very
contained.
contained, kind of space, and then everyone gets to leave with something, which is really fun part of it.
Well, that whole relationship to clothing, and we could go on for hours about that, in the sense of just all the psychological ramifications and the help with memory as people age, also of that sort of tactile remembrance of clothing as well as a visual memory of it, and how useful that is, and to encourage people to keep on, keep those memories alive, and keep that feeling alive as well. So you were talking about the fashion in the 20th century. I know that I was going to go to a presentation by you in the worst ever snowstorm last year, that the entire DC area closed down, and I didn't get to hear you. So you do things in libraries as well as senior centers of going out and giving presentations and talks of one I know is the 20th century fashion, so people can, again, go to your website, find out if you're going to be appearing at a library.
Arlington, going to our website, Arlington Cultural Affairs, Arlington Arts website is a great way to find programming from there. Also following us on Facebook and Instagram, we'll post things like that, and then especially in the future, we're hoping to develop some workshops that will actually produce out of the CostumeLab space. So maybe doing some intro to sewing, doing some felting, things like that. We're hoping to offer those out of our space pretty soon.
Well, I know that when you're speaking of the Arlington Cultural Center and the Arlington Arts Group, that, for example, just this week I received an email promoting a workshop by an artist, very modestly priced, for time management for artists. And again, you don't have to be connected with a theater or anything like that to just take advantage of this. And so going to that website, there are just so many things that you offer that I find remarkable. Now, you've done repair booths at Cosplay. Remember, I did in the beginning, we were talking about costume as both for work and involved with work and play. And the whole cosplay movement is something that some people aren't familiar with, and yet it's kind of a whole world. Can you talk about some of the ones that you've been to and you've helped? I mean, you offer little workshops on how to repair things, and we have some couple great pictures, I think, of you and the Power Rangers and the other character. I'm not totally certain which one character that is. It's great. So tell us about cosplay.
Sure. So cosplay is costume play. So it's dressing up as a character from whatever media you enjoy. We developed the cosplay repair booth for BlurredCon last year, which is Black Nerd Con. It'll be at the Hyatt Crystal City Regency at the end of this July in 2018. It is so much fun. It is a lot of play. I have just a blast the entire time we're there. We are now repeating that. We'll be there for the second year this year. We've also brought the cosplay repair booth to Escape Velocity twice, which has also been great. We have the booth there. We're there for cosplayers, especially so if they have something that busts, so if something falls apart, if something rips, something tears, your paint chips, we have a full kit. We have a sewing machine, we have changing rooms, we have glue, we have paint, we have everything you might need to help you repair it. And then also throughout the couple days that we're usually at the conferences, we offer mini classes and demos of some, for especially people starting out, and they're very basic to more advanced, but we try to teach people how to measure yourself to try to make things, how to use common or different materials that are used in cosplay, so people can just learn a little bit while they're there as well, enjoying the conference. And it is just a silly amount of fun. It is I just enjoy it so much.
Well, and it's also such a way to cross generations. I mean, you have worked with the really young, and and the high school students, and cosplay involves people of all ages, and it's just kind of another way to connect with people and connect with what their interests are. And I know another thing that you do in collaboration is the Modern Quilt Group.
Yes, we were the DC Modern Quilt Guild came into Lee Art Center, which is part of my unit. Lee Art Center is a pottery printmaking studio. They came in because they have a gallery space, and at the time they were developing Gallery 3700, which is at 3700 South 4 Mile Run, where Theater on the Run is also located. And it's a gallery space that we program. I myself have taken on working with them, and we have created, the first year, 2 years ago, we did this beautiful curated show of just general submissions from their membership. This last year we did a show that was inspired by DC architecture and landmarks, and then we'll be doing another show this upcoming year in January in 2019 with them again. And I'm very happy because I always enjoy bringing the fiber arts into spaces, and they're such great people. They're really great. Their membership's been really wonderful.
And you said it's growing, and I mean both their membership and also just the kinds of exhibits they're putting on. And
I mean, we did a curated show specifically with us. So those are the first time most of those pieces have been created for that challenge that we did with them.
Oh, that's great.
So it was really fascinating. What everyone thought of.
Well, as anybody can see, I think they're so lucky to have you because really you are unbelievably credentialed for the work that you are doing, and you are so passionate about getting out to the community and involving people in, as I said, both in the work of theater and the play aspect of people's lives, and just the artistic interest of, and being able to go in so many different realms, such as the fiber arts and so do you have suggestions or possibility? We have a little bit of time left. Of if somebody wants to, well, three things, I guess. One, if they want to volunteer with the CostumeLab, you have mentioned some of that. If they want to be involved in more of the costume community, whether it's through the quilting or through the cosplay, they can, again, contact you or look at the website for other things that are going on. And then if you have some tips on if somebody wants to kind of get started on maybe making or thinking of repairing things that they have, what would you tell them?
Okay. Can I also add one as well?
Yes.
I also just wanted to talk about the Arts Meet, which is an artist meetup networking happy hour group that I run. Well, it's primarily, the Arts Meet is to help artists connect to other artists in the area. So we do a variety of different events. We do some sort of like happy hour events, but we also do partnered events with other organizations in the area to try to connect artists to opportunities that can be afforded them. So we've done some with Arlington Arts Center, Marymount University, Ballston Gallery. We did a really amazing panel with Tech in Motion, which is another meetup. They are tech-based, but we did a panel about arts and technology and how those sort of intersect and intertwine. And we've been really fortunate to work with a lot of those groups. So that's one way that you can sort of interact, especially with Arlington Cultural Affairs. Definitely, if you want to find out about our programming, going to our website is a great way to find out what we're offering. And we have some amazing stuff. We have an amazing collection of public art. We offer tons of concerts at LeBaron Amphitheater in the summer,
Which is one of the greatest spots ever.
It's amazing.
That LeBaron is, and they do, I mean, they have dance, they have music, they have poetry, they have all kinds of, they have theater, and it's free.
Yeah.
It's just one of the amazing things that is available around here.
Yeah. And you just come on in and see what we have. And like I said, all that Arlington at our website is usually a great way of finding that from us. Following all of the accounts on social media, so if you like Instagram, we have on Instagram as well. And as far as volunteering, if anyone is interested in volunteering, I love having volunteers. And you don't have to know how to sew, you don't have to know anything like that. If you would like to dedicate some time, come in and help, I would always greatly appreciate it. Because I have everything from like putting things away to, if you know how to sew, I can repair work, and I always really enjoy it. Like you said, I like sharing this. I've enjoyed this job so much, interacting with people and showing people new skills of any kind of skill level. If you'd like to come in, I'd like to have you.
Well, I know that technology is part of your Master of Fine Arts, and can you just speak just for a minute or two on how technology has changed for you in doing your job? I mean, obviously just the archival information that you now know where things are, and communicating with other theaters, communicating with the community. Has it made much of? Have you used changing technology in the last, let's say, 5 years? Or?
So that's a great question, because there's some things about costuming that haven't really evolved. Like we obviously still use needle and thread. Right. We use sewing machines. That there are digitized sewing machines, right? There are machines that can embroider and do things like that. And depending on where you're working and what you're doing, you may or may not use those. I think it just depends. A lot of the advancements I've seen tend to come more with costume crafts. So that's a certain type of costuming that's usually more like armor and painting and dyeing. It's very sort of specific work within my industry. I know that they tend to use a lot of the more evolving products. Like there's a plastic that we use that's called Wonderflex. That's heat sensitive, and I know when I do BlurredCon, when I do any of the conferences, I will bring my friends that I know are costume crafts artisans to do the demos for us, because they use these products every day, and they're very knowledgeable with them. But yeah, that tends to be an area I've seen a lot of advancement, and I think it is in part for what they're doing now with theater, how theater is growing and evolving. Like 3D printing is becoming much more prominent. It's a way to easily replicate, and you can do things that are sort of fast and light and also safe for performers. We used to make, performers wear these big heavy things that were made out of plaster and fabric and felt, and
the old helm, the coats of iron. And
clank,
clank.
Well, right, because most armor you ever see on stage most of it is usually knitted. It's knitted fabric, and then you do an overlay of a metallic foil.
Well, I can tell that you look very happy in that photograph with the Power Rangers, and you mentioned that you want to just take a picture of them, and they were so grateful for your helping repair, because they had to, you can imagine those outfits, they need repair, and they're obviously moving in these things all the time. And really, I just thought it was such a neat acknowledgement that it really does help to have somebody who not only knows the needle and thread, but also knows the technology of keeping things together and putting things together and repairing things.
Yeah. My mom used to, when she taught me to sew when I was young, I remember she told me that you need to know how to make it, but you need to know how to repair it is just as important. And knowing how to mend things well and care for things, that's a big part of costuming. That's a lot of what I do, is I make sure things are hung correctly and cared for correctly and laundered the way they should be or cleaned the way they should be. That's a large part of my job, is keeping that collection in its best state. So when someone comes in, they're getting the best thing that they're renting.
So for one of the workshops, maybe in the future, you could have something on how to care for fashion, whatever it is, because you know, obviously we're all trying to do more of the reuse, recycle, and repair and keep. And it'd be great to you know, pass on your knowledge. I know that's just one tiny corner of your knowledge, but it's really it is just such an amazing resource here, and I really thank you for both explaining it, but also just showing how diverse it is, and the diverse audiences who might not, you know, even think about themselves as being connected to costuming. What's actually available to them, and how much you can just expand your world. And I thank you for your creativity backed up by your know-how. And I think that both Arlington County, but this whole metropolitan area has been really, we've really benefited from what you've done, and I hope you keep on doing this. It's just a great way to connect with all artists, even if they're secretly hidden inside us everywhere. And so thank you, and thank you for coming to On the Go with AAUW. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, great. We'll see you next time, and thank you for joining us. And we continue to discuss subjects that are as varied as the world around us. And take care, and we'll see you again.